Can't hear you, Bert. No. I don't know what happened.
Bert, we can't hear you. Your voice disappeared somewhere. You have a mic you turn on and off, right?
Now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Now?
Now?
Yes.
Okay. Something happens when I go to my other screen with my mouse. It just quits. Something screws up. Anyway. So today's topic, we're going to talk about some of the 5 points we're asking you to present on in your 5-minute pitch to us that everybody's going to watch. The one that crosses my mind initially is, I'll put it like this. What's a nice person like you doing in a business like this? And that's some of the things we want to talk about is how did you get into this business? Why are you in this business? We find that investors, if you're looking for investments, are often betting, well, for the most part, more and more these days, if they haven't always done this, they're betting on the horse. Excuse me, they're betting on the jockey, not the horse. And so, as you know, in horse races, they're often won by a nose. The difference between gold and silver in the Olympics is often could be down as little as 1/100th of a second. And so we really want to know why you, the jockey, are the jockey. And if you fall off this horse, which you're probably going to do 100 times along the way, you're going to get back on it. So what's a nice person like you doing in a business like this? What do you guys have to say about that?
So which of the 5 do you think that would fit into first?
Well, we talk about your business, your market, your path, your team, and your ask. And I think I'm thinking your business myself, just if you could tell your quick story there, the idea would be, I had this problem, or this person I know had this problem, or I see this problem, something about your own direct personal experience with the problem. And then ideally, somewhere along the way, maybe you help people solve it, or maybe you solved it for yourself and you had this aha moment like, whoa, I could actually do this for a lot of people. That would be, to me, the ideal foundation of, okay, this is how you got into this business. Keep going. And then, of course, keep that tight as possible as you can. Like my story would be, it goes back to, well, as a kid, I would read Popular Science and Popular Mechanics magazines, and I would see these inventions and wonder, when's this thing going to turn into a business? When's this product going to be out there? And the one that really got my attention was the 200 mile per gallon carburetor. So where the hell did that go? You could conspiracy theories or otherwise, but why aren't we getting 200 miles per gallon today? And so somewhere along the way, I thought I want to help people with ideas, turn that into a business and be a successful business person. And so I can go into my story about my business plan software to help with that, but that would be the initial, as a kid, I've always been fascinated by this. So it's my thing, if you will. And
the big why.
Yeah. So that raises a question, right? Do people start businesses because they have experienced that need and they know that someone else is going to need it also? Let's just say, for example, the person who started the first plumbing company. I mean, everybody has plumbing issues at some point. But is it because we have an idea that we think the market wants and needs, or have we experienced that need, or do we see other people experiencing that need? So I think that the answer to the question is really a very broad answer there, in that it covers all of that. But which of those really would determine better the success of an idea?
Passion is a big word I think about, and that what's going to make you stick with it with resolve is one.
Why would somebody have passion? I mean, I hear the word passion a lot. I'm passionate about this. So what? And why are you? And I know a guy who's working on a cancer detecting system where you breathe into it and it'll detect cancer. His wife died of breast cancer. So he's creating this thing with a vengeance. And so it could be, something like that. Or you just see something, these guys are screwing this up so bad. I could do so much better than these knuckleheads. I'm going to do it myself. It's just an attitude thing, So that'd be passion at a different energetic level.
And some people quit early. Some people, the gold vein could be right there. You always hear about that they're so close. And Viktor Frankl, who was a concentration camp refugee, wrote Man's Search for Meaning and came up with logotherapy because the people in the concentrate who survived were the one who had a purpose, who had something greater in meaning that they were going towards. It just comes to mind. It seems like a stretch to go from human behavior, but some people, when they have that deeper why, they're going to survive as a business person, possibly.
Yeah, I think Yeah, I think that's true. I think you have to have that if you are going to be successful with anything. But if you have the drive and you have, let's just say, the money and you have the time, but you just don't have a product that anyone wants, you're just going to go longer and longer and longer before you fail. And so I think it has to be a combination of things. You've got to have an idea, a product or a service, or whatever your thing is that people want to buy. So how do we determine what that is?
Well, there's a combination of things of, can you make something otherwise difficult simple? Like I made business plan software. People really don't want to write business plans, not because they don't want a business plan. It's just they think, how do I do this? It's a daunting project. How do I explain this business? How do I how do I go through it? Well, I made a template to make it infinitely easier to do. If you're going to go out and ask, like, on this show, you're asking for perhaps millions of dollars, or even asking friends and family for $50,000 to get started, they deserve an explanation. You're going to have to explain it to them, give them some kind of pitch, but they're going to have a lot of questions. I mean, heck, go out and invest $10,000 or some just painful amount of money in a friend's business, and they ask you, what would you want to know? Including what would happen if you got hit by a bus? How does this business keep going? So there's a lot of questions asked there. So yeah, and I even think about, I wrote a blog post. I have a link here on the site called Missionaries and Mercenaries, where you get the missionary, kind of the person we're talking about. They're going to save the world. Give me the money. I'm going to do this thing. I can fix this. I can cure cancer. I can just give me the money. I'll do it. Yet they suck at business, and which is the part that's the scary part, where you really need to be, which is what Michael Gerber talks about. How did the first plumber, he might understand plumbing, but running a plumbing company is different than being a plumber. So you need to still understand plumbing, but you need to understand a company as well. So that missionary needs to adopt some mercenary attributes, because the mercenary is all about the money. They don't care about the mission. It's kind of like I'll switch metaphors to the Wizard of Oz. You got the Tin Man who needs a heart. You got the straw man who needs a brain. You got the lion who needs some cojones. And of course, Dorothy's got the vision, and none of them have been down a yellow brick road before, so they haven't seen any flying monkeys or wicked witches. So who would think to bring along a bucket for some water? Anyway, you got to kind of give the Goldilocks blend of missionary and mercenary on your path to getting there from here.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. I had a conversation yesterday with some partners of mine in some other business, and the conversation really, and Burke, you'll appreciate this, was I made a comment. We're working with probably 60, 70 companies right now, doing a few different things, but one of which is raising capital. And I made the comment that most of these companies are probably not going to survive. And one of our partners said, I don't believe that at all. And I said, well, the point is that just because you have a lot of money doesn't make your business successful. People talk about companies running out of capital all the time. And normally when someone uses the phrase uncapitalized, they think, well, they just never had enough money. Well, that's not normally the case.
Or undercapitalized.
It's not that you don't have enough capital. It's just that you didn't use it in the right way to be successful. If you have a good idea, if you have a good product or service, and you raise capital, that does not necessarily guarantee success. There are a million things that go into building a business.
And the big ask that we have in number 5, if they don't leave enough time for that, we can't help them as much because they got to understand what they need to be successful and to take that strong step, which takes a lot of self-evaluation. How would you answer that, Fred?
Say that again.
The ask is our number 5 for each of the 5 minutes. So what type of self-evaluation do people need to know what they really need in their
that's a great question. And honestly, if you can't answer that question, you probably should not be in business. If you can't figure out what it is that you need next and what your next step is, your next 100 steps are, you're probably on a path to failure. Because you have to be able to have vision. You have to be able to understand where you're going and at least have a general idea of how you need to get there. And then once you understand that, then you can start asking for the help that you need at each one of those phases. But if you have no idea what those next things are, that to me, that's a major problem.
The ask could take on a number of different dimensions. I mean, usually it's, I need money. I need a lot of money. And so, of course, it begs the question, well, what are you going to do with it? How is this going to generate more money? How is that going to make you successful? It could take on, I'm going to borrow the money. I want you to buy stock in my company. I will give you revenue royalties, which could be, if you've got enough profit margin, you say, I will repay you with, percentage of money right off the top. And of course, you could mix and match these things and make a combination of stuff. We have a subscriber who used his business plan, and he convinced a gentleman who owned 2 Learjets to give him the planes. He didn't have to spend a dime on 2 Learjets. Now, usually what he originally wanted to do is go out, write a business plan, go out, talk to investors, get $5 million, go buy 2 jets. That would be the original plan. But no, just go find the guy with the jets. You could apply that same thing. Look at all the commercial real estate that's out there these days. If you needed a warehouse or an office space, you could probably get an extraordinary deal from a landlord who thinks, I get nothing out of this thing as it is. If you give me stock in your company or revenue royalties or agree to pay me back at some point, a loan, you could get what you need without getting money first. So there's that option as well. It could also be, your ask could be, I need an introduction to Louis Vuitton because I've got this thing that I think those guys should sell. That could be your ask. It could be, I need a source of some kind of laser beam mechanical thing or something. I don't know, making stuff up. But you could be a source of some thing that you just can't seem to find where you would get it from. That could be your ask. It could be a lot, or it could be you're looking for a licensing partner. I've got this great gizmo, bright, shiny object here. I really should be doing this in my world, but I got this shiny object I want to do something with. I'll license it to somebody. So, here's a business plan for that person to show them how this would be a great thing they should license and take over. Because, I help these guys with a medical product. They're saying, we're going to start a medical company. We're going to sell this all over the world. I'm thinking, guys, you're 70 years old. You're, not to insult your age, but let's just say, it takes a long time to build a medical product with a distribution channel around the planet. You got a little product with it's a decent product. It's cool, but license it to somebody that's already got capital. They've got manufacturing. They've got leverage. They've got a sales force. They got distribution. They have a brand. They will pay, if you got a pittance or half a point on that, or a couple tenths of percent of a point on that, God forbid, or you got 10%, whatever the number is, it's infinitely better than trying to start your whole company. And the likelihood of that crashing and burning is very high. But licensing it, hey, you licensed it to them, live happily ever after.
Yeah, and that's the whole point, right? You have to know where you want to go and how you think you need to get there. And once you start asking those questions and you start getting responses like that, then you can change your direction if you feel that is appropriate, if it makes sense. But you've got to have those initial plans, objectives, thoughts about what it is that you need to do. If you don't have any of that, no one can help you, because if you can't tell us what you need, we can't read your mind, and we're not running your business. So we can't just, make up ideas for you. That's not what most people in our roles would do. I mean, consultants don't come in and tell you what to do with your company. They come in and help you answer the questions that you have not been able to answer on your own.
How about the statement from CEO Space? If it ain't your genius, it ain't your job. So you know what your genius is, but what team member do you need to complete the circuit? That could be part of your big ask as well.
Well, of course. Yeah, absolutely. I think that is 100% correct, if that is your next step. But if, we go back to what Burke said, you're trying to build a global medical device company when you're 70 or 75 years old and you're starting from scratch, and really you should be looking for someone to license to manufacture and distribute it. If you're thinking of hiring people for that manufacturing company, it's really the wrong question.
Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah, and it's still our friend Mr. Michael E. Gerber is doing his dreaming room thing again, and one of their core documents they've used in the past is, "What do you want?" I think I've sent that out a bit, and so a lot of people, even though they're involved in the business, what do they really want as a result of this business success? I mean, and how does that really fit with kind of their purpose and meaning in life? Is that too out there of a question?
Well, it's a great place to start. You've got some why in there. Is what you want realistic? I think what people fail to really understand, I've talked to a lot of inventors who've had some kind of thing, and I wish they were 200 mile per gallon carburetors, but some of them kind of are, but there's some cool stuff. But the problem I have with them is that they wouldn't give up anything. They're holding on to it. Like, no, I can't tell anybody it's my baby. I'm not going to license it. I'm not going to let anybody invest in it. And, it's going to cost you something. You're going to have to give something up. You're going to have to be willing to pay, meaning percentage of the business, percentage of the revenue, something there. And these guys, if I had $1 for every one of these inventors that wouldn't let go of their baby, I'd be calling in from my private Caribbean island. So, you've got to realize, and you've got to figure who to trust. I mean, I think that's a huge issue as well. So could you trust, I want this, like you say, but I got to be able to trust some people to help me. And how do you do that? Well, I was going to say, like Fred and I were talking the other day, I'll just bring this up. If I'm going to hire a chief financial officer, my genius is not chief financial officer. I mean, I understand that basically I could talk to them, but that's not my job, right? So, however, I want one. But before I hire any old person who passes himself off as a chief financial officer, I'm going to call up Fred and say, Fred, you're an actual living, eating, sleeping, breathing chief financial officer and you've done it for a long time. And so would you talk to this person, please? Because I need to know that they know what they're talking about. So you want to have these people vetted by somebody else that you know. That'd be a whole extra business for you, Fred, is just,
no, that's right.
Getting CFOs, because who knows how to do that, but another successful chief financial officer. So, getting what you want, that's part of being able to trust. If I have 3 CFO candidates, they sound like great guys or women, whatever, but I need them to pass muster with Fred first. Then I'll believe. And so then we can start letting go and getting on the path to having what we want. But we need to know what it's going to cost us. And we need to know how to trust the right people to help us.
Burke, I know you've done a lot because your technology for your company has to do with not only doing business planning, but planning to present to potential investors. If you had to pick 3 things that in the Silicon Valley, if you're going to sit down at a table, what 3 things would they get their interest in investing in you?
Well, you've got to have a real solution to a real problem. I lived in Silicon Valley for many years, and there was the joke was, wow, that's a great solution looking for a problem. And so there's a lot of those. But that's why I say if you really live, eat, sleep, and breathe, you understand the problem. Either you're irked because someone else isn't solving it well and you could do it better, or it really is a problem. Like I look at business plans and, there's a lot of competitors offering business plan products. Obviously, business planning is a problem because there's a whole bunch of us solving it. I think I'm the best, obviously, but hey, so there's a problem and you've got a real viable solution. You also have the wherewithal to pull it off. You also have a reason and a why to get back on the horse after you get thrown off 100 times. So you've got that. And the other thing I bring up, and it's not just, people think it's all about the pitch. It's not all about the pitch. The pitch is a nice start. It's a first date, but getting the capital is going to take 4 to 6 months probably from that pitch, answering questions, showing up, providing answers. I think from when I worked at the Sharper Image catalog, the theory there was give the people all the information you can in that catalog page so they would just call up on the phone and go, I want that thing. They don't call up asking questions. They know what it is. They buy it. Now, investing in a business is infinitely more complicated than buying a device on at the Sharper Image catalog. But I tell you, working in the phone room, phone would be ringing. It's like fish jumping in the boat. So, but you can put together a business plan that has I call it a catalog of answers that investors are going to look at questions to address. You can point to it in there. What I want to say is that one thing that people I think miss, so you got a problem, you're the one that has the wherewithal to do it. I'm going to jump ahead and just acknowledge that there's 2 kinds of ROI. There's return on investment, which we're all aware of. Then there's return of investment. And this is where I think many entrepreneurs fall apart, is they just don't really have a proper respect. They want to be all, I'm this, we're going to cocksure, we're going to do this, we're going to be great. And all these cocksure guys just give me the willies, because if a brain surgeon walked into your hospital room and said, I'm going to fix your brain so fast and make your head spin, come with me, you'll be out of here in no time. I'd want to really have a doctor come in and say, well, I have worked on people's brains 1 million times, or you're my 1,000th, 1,500th, or 10,000th, whatever it is. I really don't know till I get in there, but given my experience and what I see happening, I think we can look for a pretty good outcome. I'd be trusting that person more than I would be someone who's all cocksure. Like in martial arts, these guys get their yellow belt and they think they're some badass street fighter, and you get your black belt and you realize it's really an enlightened sense of when to run. So, there's different levels of competence in here, but the return of investment, back to that idea, the investors really are more worried about losing their investment, which is why they pass on so many deals, because they're going, the likelihood of losing the money versus making a fortune on this investment, outweighs it dramatically. And so they want to really understand, be sure you're not going to lose the money they put in. So you have to have a healthy respect for them, their investment, for them as investors, all the way along, not just in your pitch, but all the way through. And then after they've invested, you've got to notify them, hey, we got this going on, we got a problem, we got to fix, we need your help, all that kind of stuff where you're keeping them in the loop. And so you've got to be forthcoming with, that kind of attitude. At the same time, there's risks. And these investors, for the most part, they know more about your industry than you do because they've invested in 100 companies in that industry already. They know what goes wrong. They know what can go wrong. They know what people do and don't do that are stupid or intelligent or brilliant. And so they're just looking for those clues in you. And by now, since they've been doing it for so long, they can figure you out in probably the first 30 seconds. And so you've really got to have the right mindset walking in. And so you've got to be able to reveal the risks as well. I'm over answering your question, but
yeah, I get it. And that's why people hire you to travel around the world and talk about this stuff. Now, Fred, you're in the chair of the CFO guy fairly often, and most people work with you because even though they have expertise, much of which Burke touched on, you have a unique expertise where you can do the predictive management thing. Is there any last thoughts you want to mention from your CFO seat, Fred?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, again, the whole idea of planning, knowing what those next steps are and how you're going to go about accomplishing that. Without that roadmap, it's like driving down the road, looking out your back window. Sorry. You really have no idea what you're going to run into and when you're going to hit it, because you're not looking forward and you're not understanding what those next objectives are.
Right.
So we're at the end here, guys.
All right.
I think that should give people some food for thought as to coming in and giving us a presentation. So it's a good head start on it, I think. And I think 5 minutes is arguably not enough time to really explain your business and get it all across. But what's good about the discipline of it, if you can get your pitch down to 5 minutes, you can get the nuggets in there, because really it's like a party invitation. So what this is about, you get the elevator pitch, which is proverbially 30 seconds. I would say the elevator pitch really should become the buffet line pitch, because that's where you're going to meet the investor. You're in the buffet line at a conference, and either the person's in front of you or behind you. Say, hey, what do you do? And here's your 30 seconds, bang. You're not really in the elevator, literally. I've even heard people say, well, the elevator, you're going to go 26 floors. No, you're not. You're going to go 3 floors. That's how much time for an elevator pitch. 3 floors in a slow elevator, not that thing in the Burj Al Dubai, but that whole thing. Anyway, but so, 5 minutes is a good discipline to really get the highlights in, the proper highlights. Why you? It's like basically the VCs in Silicon Valley put it this way: why your product, why now, and why from you. And those are the 3 fundamental questions to address. And then, you're interesting. You get it. I'd like to talk to you further because you seem like an entrepreneur that I might be willing to invest in. So the next thing is you go to their office and you give them the pitch for proverbial 20 minutes. And then if they like you, they'll ask questions and keep asking questions. And if they interrupt you with questions, I think it's a good sign, because I know going to a store, I don't ask questions about something I'm not interested in, right? So, if they're asking questions, I would say that's a sign of interest. So embrace the questions, answer them, and keep going.
Yeah, and if any of this stimulates your thinking, we'd love to have you on as a presenter. So we look forward to that possibility, because we're here to help.
Yeah, I'd love to be on the Shark Tank and be the guy who goes, what you got to do is fix this, do this, don't do that, don't listen to this knucklehead, that deal sucks. You ought to ask for this. They'll never have me on for that. But so anyway, it's reality TV. This is really more reality TV, where you're getting some reality that you can work with.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, great, guys. All right. I'm gonna let it run, but we're done.
All right.
So what do you guys think? Sorry, I was about to choke to death there.
I'd recommend, I have coffee just because it's hot water, and hot water is way better for your throat, for speaking purposes anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's what they have on most speaking stands, isn't cold water, right? It's room temperature at the very most, right?
Yeah, that's what this is. So,
or if it's just hot water,
right,
would be good. So,
all right.
So are we done?
I think we're done. Yeah, that was It's probably what, a 25-minute recording, maybe?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll edit all that out and
All right.
see what we have left. Yeah, I've already edited a couple of videos.
Nice.
So I'll get through the rest of them.
And Fred, I would like to do your commercial like we did for Fred.
For Burke.
I'm sorry, man. That we did for Burke. So, so if you know, it doesn't take long, and now we got a script. We just tweak it. I'll update it for you,
Right.
And a couple tries, and you should be golden. But you know, you'll be announcing and inviting to whatever group of people you're affiliated with. So, if you're interested, just let me know. I'll do it almost anytime. Okay.
Okay, will do.
And
all right, guys.
Well, thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, guys.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Okay, great.